And thanks, everybody, for calling in today. We have on the line Battalion Chief Brad Babinet from Texas. And then also on the line is LFR Captain Dave Cluthe, Kluthe. He is the task force liaison here in Lincoln. In the email I sent yesterday, we thought we would have some of the task force members who directly were involved in the rescues, and things have changed, as they often do in the task force. So Brad can explain what's going on, and then we'll take questions.
All right. Thanks, Diane. So, yes, as you can imagine, I did mention I would potentially have some task force members on that could visit about their experiences and stuff down in Texas. But in the last 24 to 48 hours, task force has been reported, and I think most people know, have been sitting in the mobilization center here in Katy, Texas. They've been restocking their MREs, bottle of water, batteries, all the consumable items that a task force of 80 people would go through. And they've been getting kind of made whole, if you will, here in theater. We've all been watching these storms out in the Caribbean, specifically Hurricane Irma, as it spins up and starts heading towards the continental U.S. and Puerto Rico. So with that said, overnight, it was decided to begin the demobilization process of task forces here at the mobilization center in Katy, Texas. So the task force itself is in kind of scurry mode. If you can imagine, we have a little wildland fire camp, or a city of 26 of the 28 federal task forces in some configuration or another. The task forces being moved out first this morning are those that are associated with agencies on the East Coast, kind of starting, as you can imagine, with Florida, working their way up out the eastern seaboard and getting them back to their home agencies in preparation should Irma make landfall in any one of those areas. A second wave will be pushed out up here within the Midwest, with Nebraska scheduled sometime around early afternoon to be demobilized and work through the process of getting themselves on the road en route back to Lincoln. So with that said, yesterday they were preparing as they restocked all the vehicles. We had mechanics on site that check all the vehicles out for mechanical stability. As you can imagine, they've been in an austere environment, water, flooding, and stuff, so everything is roadworthy. Packing up whatever they can so that if the notice came. They also, while they're en route and leave, they will be, as part of their situational awareness and reporting package that they have, as they're still under the guidance of being a federal asset, are at the disposal should the need arise, and Irma would come forth, or they have a better direct line of travel for that potential hurricane to divert the task force from being inbound to Lincoln to inbound to a staging area closer to where the potential for that hurricane to come in. So that portion is still up the air, as they get better intelligence or better idea of where they would need assets, if any. But the task force is aware of getting themselves as prepared as possible before they go down the road later today. That the potential is that they may not be on a direct line back into Lincoln. So I do not know the exact departure time of the task force as they are getting ready to go through their demobilization paperwork process, out processing, and through the ground support checkout process to get them on the road. So they are in the queue to be demobilized in a second wave of priority personnel, if you will, to get the East Coast personnel back headed that way. With that, not really much more I can add. I apologize for not having task force members, but they're in a scurry to kind of get everything bunched up today so that they can be on the road either back home, or if the need arises, diverted to another theater of operations.
Any questions? Excuse me. Any questions?
Chief Ryan Robertson with 1011 News. You said that they're going to be hopefully headed out this afternoon. What's the process like of getting all the equipment roadworthy, getting all the vehicles checked, packing up gear? Kind of walk us through that process, if you would.
So everything has a command structure, if you will, and one of those units is a ground support unit. That unit has 5 mechanics that are here in the mobilization center where all the assets are staged, and they have been running every vehicle through a vehicle safety check. So they are checking all the vehicles out one by one from every task force here to make sure, and that's from the semis down to the pickups to the vans to the buses that are transporting personnel, to make sure that they pass a vehicle safety inspection. They're worthy enough to make the trip from here to Nebraska, or here to Washington State, New Jersey, or wherever the task forces are headed back. So that is the vehicle check process, as well as we will check, medical checks are being done on all the personnel. Paperwork associated with that is being turned into the management team that is overseeing all the task forces in theater. So it's a lengthy process. They began the process yesterday morning of the vehicles, just because there was some downtime and the vehicles have been used in some austere environment, and whether or not they were demobilized to go home or utilized again, they felt the need to take a look at the tires. Was there water that maybe got into the vehicle or into some of the undercarriage of the vehicles and stuff? So certified mechanics were then working through basically bumper to bumper of all transport vehicles from all task forces involved.
Good morning, sir. I have a question from the World Herald, please. This is Barbara. Can you tell me, is this a big change in plans for you guys that was caused by Hurricane Irma, or what was your plan if you weren't being demobilized?
We were at the when we come into theater when all this began. A couple weeks ago, 10 days ago, I think. They all kind of run together. We are then passed off as a federal asset to the state of Texas that requests this. And so it is up to the governor in the state of Texas to say that we no longer have any missions for you. And then Texas releases us back to there. So there's been a considerable amount of assistance from other state assets from neighboring states, and even as far away as northern Vermont and Puerto Rico to send assistance into here. The state of Texas was doing kind of a query of how many assets and boat crews they have here, and if there was a real need, and as some of the water has been receding in specific areas of interest or areas of high probability, it was decided last night that the state of Texas had enough rescue assets amongst themselves, because the state of Texas also has a federal task force like Nebraska Task Force 1 and additional state assets. They felt that they could handle any of the remaining workload, if you will, associated with the hurricane, and didn't need the assistance of that, which would then expedite moving the federal task forces out of here and so that they could be used elsewhere. So we are kind of at the liberty of the state of Texas till they feel that the original mission has been accomplished, and they say they feel comfortable that they can release us to let us go.
I have a question. I'm with Channel 8. So overall, how many rescues did they do while they were there of people, of pets, just to get a final number?
I do not have a final number right now. I know system-wide, all task forces combined in the federal House, if you will, under that umbrella, the 2018 was over 4,500 rescues or evacuations. Nebraska Task Force 1 had a hand and assisted with over 1,500 of those, and at last count, it was over 120 pets or companion animals that they had also assisted in taken out. But a definitive number specific to Nebraska Task Force 1 in the first days of that, as information come in, I do not have a quantifiable total that I can provide, but I do have those kind of global and broad numbers.
This is Jessica Ritchie with Channel 3 News in Omaha. I was just curious when, with the agencies being left behind there in the area you are, what kinds of things still need to be done?
As some of this morning they were going to begin to shut down some electrical grids to some areas that had floodwaters in. And if people still might be staying in an area now that you have power, and so you feel that you're comfortable, now you're going to be without power and you still may need some evacuation help. Those are not coming in the mass quantities like they were earlier in the incident. So there's enough boat assets between the City of Houston Fire Department, other areas of Texas, Texas Task Force 1, and state assets. They feel that they can handle those missions as they get up and the water tends to recede back to normal levels, if you will. And then there may be some associated search missions just to make sure that they go through and touch a lot of structures in certain areas and stuff, as well as in some of the areas, potentially Beaumont, Texas being specific. That is going to be quite some time before the water goes down. I was on an aerial recon of that area a couple days ago, and there's houses that were still 3 to 4 feet underwater. It was well over the roof line, and you barely saw a chimney or something sticking out of neighborhoods. So it will be quite some time for the water recede before they can go back in and check those. So.
And do you guys know where you're heading out to now?
No, they will. When they demobilize and exit from here, they will notify, the process is to notify the program office for Urban Search and Rescue in Washington that they are on the road. They continually check in every couple of hours, every 2 hours with them to let them know the progress down the road, which everybody's progress is then tracked. That way, should a need arise somewhere else, then they can easily notify you that you might be diverted or not. So as of right now, when they leave here, they will file their travel plan that has the destination being Lincoln, Nebraska.
Chief, this is Anastasia with WOWT 6 News in Omaha. I'm just wondering, how happy is the task force to have been able to help out with search and rescue missions in Texas?
They are extremely gratified. They are, and I've walked amongst them. My family has been able to hook up with them and sit down with some of them and have conversations, and they are beaming. They are ecstatic for the opportunity. I've mentioned to them numerous times how proud the state of Nebraska, specifically the Omaha agencies that allow help, Omaha Fire, Lincoln Fire, and all those civilian agencies that support the task force to go do that. They know they're working on behalf of Omaha Fire, Lincoln Fire, the civilian agencies, and all of the people of the state of Nebraska and representing that. And they just felt so blessed that they were able to come down here, provide such assistance on a magnitudinal level that I think they've taken back experiences that they will never forget. I was even informed, and I shared with them a couple of days, that I got a text message from individuals that were in the Netherlands, and their CNN footage of assisting with evacuating the nursing home with some of the elderly bedridden people and thinking outside the box has gone worldwide. And somebody I knew over in Europe actually sent me a text. So I saw you guys on the TV. So I shared that with them, and the sense of pride that their missions are going noticed. They're able to help. I think it's just beyond putting into words.
Chief Ryan Robertson with 11 News again. Getting back to some of the nuts and bolts of the equipment that Task Force 1 has, what's the caravan going to look like when you guys head back here? A couple of semis, some vans? What all equipment needs to get checked out? My mind is kind of all run today. They should be coming with 3 tractor trailer configurations, 2 box truck configurations,
Then there's and that's just moving the equipment. Then they'll have obviously a couple, two boat trailers that is having all their water assets behind, and then assorted vans with the personnel, Suburbans, more command presence, pickups, and that. So a very extensive convoy of white vehicles going from the point of departure here into the point of arrival in Lincoln.
And this is Bailey with Channel 8 again. If they do leave straight from Texas and come back to Lincoln, how long will that take?
I don't know. And I said because, and I will couch with this, if you've ever been on vacation with the family or vacation with your kids, we're trying to manage the task force leaders, Chief Bonine and Captain Davis are going to have to manage all that vehicles that I just mentioned, their fuel consumption, who needs gas, everybody's individual bladder capacity and rest stops, so that they kind of all stay together and kind of come in as one, especially if there's any mechanical issues that need to be solved or whatever. They will file their travel plan, try to stick to it as best as they can, knowing that they need to manage all of that. Their mission is not complete until all those individuals from the task force are back home, safely. And so there's still that heightened sense of awareness that we still need to manage the component in that kind of convoy coming in. I don't know if they will be driving straight through, or depending on, and a lot of that depends on when they actually depart here, or if they will try to find a place to get some rest overnight and then come on in the morning. Once I do find out, or they notify me that they are wheels up here, then I intend to push that to Chief Despain and Diane, so they can kind of manage that if there's a need for questions about when they might arrive back home in Lincoln.
Hey, Brad, this is Chief Despain. I was just on the phone with Roger, just working out some of the details. So for the media and for Diane, we will just keep them posted on their progress, and we'll give you a good ETA when we think they're going to be pulling into town, and invite the media if they want to kind of catch them as they drive in. That will probably be fine. We can't guarantee that they'll all be in one, within 1 5-minute window of getting in, because that's a lot of caravanning to get in and get through some of the lights. But we'll figure out a time and place so everybody can get their videos and that kind of stuff. But best case scenario is tomorrow night. Best case scenario right now, based on what I heard, was tomorrow evening.
Sorry, this is Barbara again at the World Herald. Just two quick questions to follow up, if I may. Just checking on your website, it looks like you have one of your last missions as being Colorado flooding in 2013. I wondered if there'd been other missions since then, or how often you get out. And then secondly, if you wouldn't mind, please just review for us maybe one or two of the highlights or kind of the biggest rescues or biggest events that you've had on this recent trip. Thank you.
As far as the task force itself going out as a 80-person task force, like they came down here, it would be back to the 2013 flooding event in Boulder, Colorado. Those were kind of back-to-back events because I believe it was 4 or 6 weeks prior to that, the task force was dispatched to Moore, Oklahoma for the tornadoes. They were there and they spent some 3 or 4 days down in there before coming back and then being sent to the Boulder floods. Since then, we've had members in support, some of the management oversight team of all the task force, sent to Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Sandy, and some of the others more in a small contingency of maybe just a couple folks to help oversee the federal task forces working in theater. I think to answer the second part of your question, I think I really couldn't do that justice, if you will, because I think everybody will have their own take on what they take back as being their best, or what rescue evacuation person sticks with me. I know yesterday I was talking for some of the task forces, continuously my Omaha firefighters went to Catholic Mass here off of staging, and while they were at Catholic Mass, the family of individuals that they had rescued or evacuated actually recognized them because they were at Mass as well. And I know that stuck with those 5 Omaha individuals that went to Mass and got to meet them after the fact, after things slowed down. So I think everybody has their own little nugget or memory that's sticking with them for this mission to take back. So
this is Jessica again with Channel 3. You mentioned the pride and the joy that they felt at being able to go down and help with these rescues. On the other side of the coin, what was some of the reactions to the loss and the devastation that you guys saw down there?
I think there's a lot. I think it's an incomprehensible or overwhelming sense of, holy smokes, how is there this much water? Most of us are conditioned, if you will, for a hurricane to come in, make landfall, do a lot of, spend a lot of rain and then leave, and you're coming after the fact. So here they spend a lot of time in the rain during the actual aftermath, if you will, and it was more of a rescue and evacuation, and that is not normally the way things have been operating on a global scale. So just the ability to be here to make a difference early in an event is something that has been different than prior missions.
Brad, this is Diane. When you guys get back, is it the task force that does all the unloading and getting everything back in place, or is that a several-day operation? And who does that work?
Well, you believe that you heard earlier and announced Captain Kluge is kind of the task force liaison. So we have a support unit that is back there of our logistics folks, our administrative folks that are working on that end. So they are currently in contact with the task force. Captain Kluge is, and some logistics folks, Captain Watton, and they are getting a plan together to be able to, get everything offloaded, get a rehab, process the people back in, issue from simple things as issuing their car keys back to them, getting them to their vehicles so they can get home to their families and stuff. So we do provide reach back capabilities of folks that are working back home in Lincoln to assist the task force leadership on those, and so they don't have to worry about that, and it's kind of set up, if you will, once they arrive back home.
I guess as a follow-up to that, this is Daily with Channel 8 again. Will the Lincoln and Omaha firefighters, when they come back, will they get some time off to get back together with their families and all of that and rest up after working this?
Yeah, yes, they will. They will get time to additional time to be off shift, so they don't have to go back in and report back to their fire station and start shift work again. They will get time to reconnect with their families, have some downtime to decompress, have a good night's sleep in their own bed versus their cots and mattresses or floors or whatever they've been sleeping on. So yes, that opportunity is provided, and it's actually mandated that they have that time so that they can kind of decompress, recharge their batteries, and then once they get to work, they're kind of a fresh body, if you will, and kind of just recharge to begin to start some sense of normalcy back in their lives. And I think along that lines, it's again, I can't reiterate it enough, it's those folks that are filling the void from the Lincoln, Omaha fire departments that are picking up the shift workload back home, that it's allowing us to work down here, because that lift of those guys filling the void, guys and gals filling the void back home, is essential to this operation and allowing us to work downrange and here.
Chief, again. Sorry, Chief. Has I know you guys were talking about Irma. Has there been any talk among task forces about response to Montana and the fires going on there?
Not amongst the task forces. We do not provide wildland firefighting, urban search and rescue, which is water, wide area search, heavy concrete breaching and breaking. But with that said, we have 28 federal task forces. From 8 of those come out of the state of California. And so you can imagine that with the burning that's going on in California and Montana, we also have teams from Utah, that some of these personnel are also associated with wildland firefighting crews. So to get their assets, where they're no longer needed here, back to their home agencies so they can potentially be redeployed in maybe a wildland setting, assisting their local agencies in a wildland manner, is also another one of the strategic chess moves on the giant chessboard, if you will, of getting people demobilized and back where the next peril is going on within the nation.
Chief, this is Anastasia with 6 News in Omaha again. If you guys are called out to go help with efforts from Hurricane Irma, is there like a sort of a rotation so that you guys aren't, overworked or overexhausted?
We set up work rest cycles for the people that were here. Even amongst the task forces that were here, some task forces that would work one day, and this was late once we are out of the initial attack mode and more into doing some search and helping the locals out. We would use teams one day, let them rest the other. Additionally, we also had the opportunity to switch out task force personnel in theater if need be. So everybody kind of has a timeout schedule, if you will. They know that they could potentially be gone for up to 14 days when they leave. And so as we get towards that, if that indeed came to fruition, the ability to say, can we transition those that are working on a mission out with individuals from back home and just kind of switch them, because we have our equipment already close by where it is needed. So that is a definite possibility. Should, and I say should because nothing has been codified with them moving that direction towards Irma, but the ability to do that from a strategic level does exist, to swap out people so we are not overworking them, not keeping away from their agencies and families and stuff, and very sensitive to that 14-day time frame.
And this is Bailey with Channel A again. I know you said that they are so grateful and thankful to be able to help out down there, but are they excited about the possibility of being able to come home and see their families and return to some kind of sense of normalcy?
I would say, and not speaking for each one, but I would say globally, yes. I think if you could get back into your own bed, eating meals that aren't coming out of a camp kitchen, having to be in South Texas heat and humidity, and get back where you can do laundry and have some of the comforts that you have at home. I think that all of them are ecstatic that they were able to provide the support that they were to the state of Texas and the citizens here. But now as the mission dials down, I think they're equally as joyous to be able to come back home and share those experiences with others, learn from them, but then get back to some sense of normalcy in their life. Yes.
All right. Have we exhausted all the questions for today? This is what happens when we take a couple of days off, Brad. Then they store up all their questions. So.
Well, I just want to say in closing, if I may, that I really appreciate the coordination from you, Diane, to funnel all of the media requests through you. Thank you for the media to kind of respecting that avenue of going for her and trying not to bother the task force leaders and stuff so they don't become overwhelmed as they try to manage the folks. And hopefully we were able to give you some timely updates and media nuggets and stuff like that as we respect and know that you also have a job to do in sharing this experience with all the citizens in the state of Nebraska. So I really appreciate that from my angle and stuff. And I will probably transition it over to Chief Despain and Diane to kind of manage the task force and all the other stuff coming down the pipe and stuff as they move out from here and head back to Lincoln.
Well, I hope you guys have a safe trip. And we will, Diane, we'll keep the media posted on where you are and when you are expected back.
Hey, Diane.
All right.
This is Chief Despain.
Yes.
Hey, Diane. It's Chief Despain.
Yes.
So we probably should not have a media briefing tomorrow because there'll be nothing to talk about other than me emailing out estimated time of arrival and where we should probably meet. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, we this will probably be the last one of these that we do. Unless conditions change, I'll send out an email to the media and let them know that we'll just be keeping them updated through email.
Okay, and then if there's something we need to do, like formally on the back end with members of the team, like in a room, let me know, and we can probably arrange that. We just need to give them that first 24 hours to get home and stay married or whatever they need to do.
Okay. I do have one question. The task force members who are not from Lincoln, will they all be released from Lincoln, or will there be like an additional organized trip back? In other words, once they get to Lincoln, are they free to go?
Nope, they will all arrive into Lincoln. The same caravan as everybody will come together. More likely, the team will have kind of a final short little briefing about some of the just moving forward from there, and then any of the outlying cities, Omaha and wherever, they all have their personal vehicles down around Lincoln. We have them secured in a lot, and they will just be transported over their personal vehicle then to disperse from there and go forth to be with their families.
So if the Omaha and surrounding area media want to get the homecoming, they will need to come to Lincoln.
Correct.
Okay.